Welcome back to Bible Quizzes. We have another 80 questions for you guys today, so let's get started. 1. Moses parted the Red Sea to allow the Israelites to escape from Egypt. True. Exodus 14:21-22. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back in a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground, with a wall of water on their right and on their left. 2. David was the first king of Israel. False. 1 Samuel 10:1. Then Samuel took a flask of olive oil and poured it on Saul's head and kissed him, saying, "Has not the Lord anointed you ruler over his inheritance?" 3. The Bible says that Jonah was swallowed by a whale. False. Jonah 1:17. Now the Lord provided a huge fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. 4. Noah's Ark came to rest on Mount Sinai. False. Genesis 8:4. And on the 17th day of the 7th month the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. 5. Peter denied Jesus 3 times before the rooster crowed. True. Matthew 26:75. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken, "Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times," and he went outside and wept bitterly. 6. The 10 Commandments were given to Moses on Mount Sinai. True. Exodus 19:20. The Lord descended to the top of Mount Sinai and called Moses to the top of the mountain, so Moses went up. 7. Lot's wife was turned into a pillar of salt. True. Genesis 19:26. But Lot's wife looked back and she became a pillar of salt. 8. Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dream of 7 fat cows and 7 lean cows. True. Genesis 41:1-4. When 2 full years had passed, Pharaoh had a dream. He was standing by the Nile, when out of the river there came up 7 cows, sleek and fat, and they grazed among the reeds. 9. The Bible says, "Do not do unto others as you would have them do unto you." False. Matthew 7:12. So in everything do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets. 10. Rahab the harlot is listed in the genealogy of Jesus. True. Matthew 1:5. Salmon the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab, Boaz the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth, Obed the father of Jesse. 11. Enoch was taken up to heaven while dying. False. Genesis 5:24. Enoch walked faithfully with God, then he was no more, because God took him away. 12. The Bible mentions the Tower of Babel in the book of Exodus. False. Genesis 11:1. The Tower of Babel. 13. King Hezekiah showed the Babylonian envoys all his treasures. True. Isaiah 39:2. Hezekiah received the envoys gladly and showed them what is in the storehouses, the silver, the gold, the spices, the fine olive oil, his entire armory, and everything found among his treasures. There was nothing in his palace or in all his kingdom that Hezekiah did not show them. 14. The Bible records that Philip baptized an Ethiopian eunuch. True. Acts 8:26-27. Now an angel of the Lord said to Philip, "Go south to the road, the desert road that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza." So he started out, and on his way he met an Ethiopian eunuch, an important official in charge of all the treasury of the Kandake, which means Queen of the Ethiopians. This man had gone to Jerusalem to worship. 15. Balaam's parrot spoke to him. False. Numbers 22:28. Then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and it said to Balaam, "What have I done to you to make you beat me these 3 times?" 16. Nicodemus visited Jesus at night. True. John 3:1-2. Now there was a Pharisee, a man named Nicodemus, who was a member of the Jewish ruling council. He came to Jesus at night and said, "Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher who has come from God, for no one can perform the signs you are doing if God were not with him." 17. King Nebuchadnezzar was turned into a beast for a period. True. Daniel 4:33. Immediately what had been said about Nebuchadnezzar was fulfilled. He was driven away from people and ate grass like the ox. His body was drenched with the dew of heaven until his hair grew like the feathers of an eagle and his nails like the claws of a bird. 18. The Bible's shortest verse is Jesus wept. False. John 11:35. Jesus wept. True. John 11:35. Jesus wept. 19. The Bible mentions the sun standing still during a battle. True. Joshua 10:13. So the sun stood still and the moon stopped, till the nation avenged itself on its enemies. As it is written in the book of Jasher, the sun stopped in the middle of the sky and delayed going down about a full day. 20. The Apostle Paul was shipwrecked 7 times. False. 2 Corinthians 11:25. 3 times I was beaten with rods, once I was pelted with stones, 3 times I was shipwrecked, I spent a night and a day in the open sea. 21. Who was alongside Deborah that led Israel to victory? Barak, John, Daniel, or David? Barak. Judges 4:6. She sent for Barak son of Abinoam from Kadesh in Naphtali and said to him, "The Lord, the God of Israel, commands you, go, take with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun and lead them up to Mount Tabor." 22. Which king consulted the witch of Endor to summon the spirit of Samuel? David, Solomon, Saul, or Rehoboam? Saul. 1 Samuel 28:8. So Saul disguised himself, putting on other clothes, and at night he and 2 men went to the woman. "Consult a spirit for me," he said, "and bring up for me the one I name." 23. Which New Testament book is addressed to a specific individual named Theophilus? Acts, Hebrews, Romans, or Revelation? Acts 1:1. The former account I made, O Theophilus, of all that Jesus began both to do and teach. 24. Who was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind with chariots of fire? Enoch, Elisha, Elijah, or John? Elijah. 2 Kings 2:11. Then it happened, as they continued on and talked, that suddenly a chariot of fire appeared with horses of fire and separated the two of them, and Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. 25. Who was the father of John the Baptist? Zechariah, Joseph, Simeon, or Nicodemus? Zechariah. Luke 1:5-13. There was in the days of Herod the king of Judea a certain priest named Zacharias, of the division of Abijah. His wife was of the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. 26. Who was the left-handed judge who killed King Eglon of Moab? Nicodemus, Simon Peter, Othniel, or Ehud? Ehud. Judges 3:16-17. Now Ehud made himself a dagger. It was double-edged and a cubit in length, and fastened it under his clothes on his right thigh. So he brought the tribute to Eglon, king of Moab. Now Eglon was a very fat man. 27. Which book of the Bible contains the story of Balaam and his talking donkey? Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, or Judges? Numbers 22:21-30. Balaam the donkey and the angel. 28. What is the name of the high priest who accused Jesus of blasphemy? Gamaliel, Nicodemus, Caiaphas, or Andrew? Caiaphas. Matthew 26:57-65. Then the high priest tore his clothes, saying, "He has spoken blasphemy. What further need do we have of witnesses? Look, now you have heard his blasphemy." 29. In which book of the Bible is a story of handwriting on the wall found? Ezekiel, Isaiah, Jeremiah, or Daniel? Daniel 5:5. In the same hour the fingers of a man's hand appeared and wrote opposite the lampstand on the plaster of the wall of the king's palace, and the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. 30. Who was a queen who visited Solomon to test his wisdom with hard questions? Queen of Sheba, Queen Esther, Queen Jezebel, or Queen Vashti? Zebedee. 1 Kings, now Queen of Sheba. Queen of Sheba. 1 Kings 10:1. Now when the Queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord, she came to test him with hard questions. 31. Which prophet confronted King David about his sin with Bathsheba? Elijah, Nathan, Elisha, or Samuel? Nathan, 2 Samuel 12:7. Then Nathan said to David, "You are the man. Thus says the Lord God of Israel, I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you from the hand of Saul." 32. What city was known for its walls that fell after the Israelites marched around them for 7 days? Jerusalem, Bethel, Ai, or Jericho? Jericho. Joshua 6:20. So the people shouted when the priests blew the trumpets, and it happened when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat. Then the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city. 33. Who denied knowing Jesus 3 times? John, James, Peter, or Judas? John. Revelation 1:9. I, John, both your brother and companion in the tribulation and kingdom and patience of Jesus Christ, was on the island that is called Patmos for the word of God and for the testimony of Jesus Christ. 34. Which Old Testament book is known for its acrostic poems? Psalms, Lamentations, Proverbs, or Ecclesiastes? Lamentations. Lamentations 1 through 4. How lonely sits that city that was full of people. How like a widow is she, who is great among the nations. The princes among the provinces has become a slave. 35. Who was the king during Daniel's time in the lion's den? Darius, Cyrus, Nebuchadnezzar, or Belshazzar? Darius. Daniel 6:16. So the king gave the command, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. But the king spoke, saying to Daniel, Your God, whom you serve continually, he will deliver you. 36. Which New Testament book contains the armor of God passage? Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, or Colossians? Ephesians. Ephesians 6:10 through 18. The whole armor of God. 37. What was the original Hebrew name of Esther? Ruth, Naomi, Miriam, or Hadassah? Hadassah. Esther 2:7. And Mordecai had brought up Hadassah, that is, Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. The young woman was lovely and beautiful. When her father and mother died, Mordecai took her as his own daughter. 38. Which prophet was sent to the potter's house to receive a message from God? Ezekiel, Zechariah, Isaiah, or Jeremiah? Jeremiah. Jeremiah 18:1 through 2. The word which came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, Arise and go down to the potter's house, and there I will cause you to hear my words. 39. Who was a tent maker who traveled with Paul on his missionary journeys? Barnabas, Timothy, Aquila, or Luke? Aquila. Acts 18:1 through 3. And he found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, who had recently come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because Claudius had commanded all the Jews to depart from Rome, and he came to them. So because he was of the same trade, he stayed with them and worked, for by occupation they were tent makers. 40. Who was the Persian king that allowed the Jew to return to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple? Darius, Artaxerxes, Xerxes, or Cyrus? Cyrus. Ezra 1:1. Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, so that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and also put it in writing, saying, 41. What was the name of the place where Jesus was crucified? Bethany, Golgotha, Gethsemane, or Calvary? Golgotha. Matthew 27:33. And when they had come to a place called Golgotha, that is to say, place of a skull. 42. Who was the Roman centurion who sought Peter for guidance and was filled with the Holy Spirit? Felix, Cornelius, Agrippa, or Festus? Cornelius. Acts 10:1 through 48. There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of what was called the Italian regiment. 43. What was Paul's original name before his conversion? Silas, Saul, Simon, or Barnabas? Saul, Acts 9 1 through 2. Then Saul, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord, went to the high priest and asked letters from him to the synagogues of Damascus, so that if he found any who were of the way, whether men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. 44. Which Old Testament character's name means laughter? Jacob, Isaac, Esau, or Felix? Isaac, Genesis 21:3 through 6. And Abraham called the name of the son who was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him Isaac. Then Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God had commanded him. Now Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. And Sarah said, God has made me laugh, and all who hear will laugh with me. 45. Which book of the Bible is known for its detailed prophecies and visions about the end times? Daniel, Revelation, Ezekiel, or Isaiah? Revelation 1:1, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave him to show his servants things which must shortly take place, and he sent and signified it by his angel to his servant John. 46. Who was a cupbearer to King Artaxerxes, and later led the rebuilding of Jerusalem's walls? Nehemiah, Zerubbabel, Ezra, or Haggai? Nehemiah 2 1 through 5. Nehemiah sent to Judah, and it came to pass in the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was before him, that I took the wine and gave it to the king. Now I had never been sad in his presence before. 47. Which minor prophet's book consists of only one chapter? Haggai, Zechariah, Obadiah, or Anna? Obadiah 1, the coming judgment on Edom. 48. Which prophet is known for lamenting over Jerusalem and predicting its destruction? Isaiah, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, or Daniel? Jeremiah 9:1. Disobedience brings God's judgment. 49. Which New Testament book is known for its teachings on the fruit of the Spirit? Romans, 1 Corinthians, Galatians, or Ephesians? Galatians 5:22-23. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law. 50. Which Old Testament book features the story of a Moabite woman who becomes an ancestor of David? Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, or 2 Samuel? Ruth 1 through 4:22. Elimelech's family goes to Moab. 51. Which king of Judah was known for his extensive religious reforms? Hezekiah, Ahab, Manasseh, or Jeroboam? Hezekiah, 2 Kings 18:4. He removed the high places and broke the sacred pillars, cut down the wooden image and broke in pieces the bronze serpent that Moses had made. For until those days the children of Israel burned incense to it, and called it Nehushtan. 52. Who was the mother of Ishmael? Sarah, Rebekah, Hagar, or Leah? Hagar, Genesis 16:15. So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram named his son whom Hagar bore Ishmael. 53. Which New Testament book addresses the issue of faith without works being dead? Hebrews, 1 John, James, or 1 Peter? James 2:17, thus also faith by itself, if does not have works, is dead. 54. Which New Testament letter is addressed to the elect lady and her children? 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, or Jude? Second John 1:1, the elder to the elect lady and her children, whom I love in truth, and not only I, but also all those who have known the truth. 55. Which apostle was known as the rock upon which Jesus would build his church? John, Peter, Andrew, or James? Peter, Matthew 16:18, and I also say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. 56. Which prophet was fed by ravens during a drought? Elijah, Elisha, Isaiah, or Jeremiah? Elijah, 1 Kings 17:6, the ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning, and bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the brook. 57. Who was the wife of King Ahab who promoted the worship of Baal? Jezebel, Abigail, Athaliah, or Vashti? Jezebel, 1 Kings 16:31, and it came to pass, as though it had been a trivial thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, that he took as a wife Jezebel the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and he went and served Baal and worshipped him. 58. Which New Testament book begins with the words, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God"? Matthew, Luke, Mark, or John? John 1:1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. 59. Which book of the Bible is written by a tax collector who became an apostle? Mark, John, Luke, or Matthew? Matthew 9:9, as Jesus passed on from here, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax office, and he said to him, "Follow me," so he rose and followed him. 60. Which king of Babylon made a golden statue and commanded everyone to worship it? Nebuchadnezzar, Cyrus, Belshazzar, or Darius? Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel 3:2, and King Nebuchadnezzar sent word to gather together the satraps, the administrators, the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the judges, the magistrates, and all the officials of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. 61. What was another name for the Ark of Testimony? Ark of the Covenant, Exodus 25:22. There above the cover between the two cherubim that are over the Ark of the Covenant law, I will meet with you and give you all my commands for the Israelites. 62. What was the significance of Jesus' baptism? Marked the beginning of his public ministry. Matthew 3:13-17. When he had been baptized, Jesus came up immediately from the water, and behold, the heavens were opened to him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and alighting upon him. 63. What miraculous event occurred when Moses stretched out his staff over the Red Sea? Parting of the Red Sea, Exodus 14:21. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. 64. Where did Jesus deliver his most famous sermon? On the mountainside in Galilee, Matthew 5:1, and seeing the multitudes, he went up on a mountain, and when he was seated, his disciples came to him. 65. Why did Noah create the ark? To survive the great flood. Genesis 6:13-14. So God said to Noah, I'm going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I'm surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood, make rooms in it, and coat it with pitch inside and out. 66. What is the first book of the New Testament? Gospel of Matthew, Matthew 1:1. This is the genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. 67. Where was Daniel thrown into? Lion's den. Daniel 6:16. So the king gave the order, and they brought Daniel and threw him into the lion's den. The king said to Daniel, May your God whom you serve continually rescue you. 68. Judas Iscariot betrayed Jesus for... $30 pieces of silver. Matthew 26:15, and asked, What are you willing to give me if I deliver him over to you? So they counted out for him 30 pieces of silver. 69. What is Jeremiah known as? Weeping prophet. Jeremiah 9:1. Oh, that my head were a spring of water and my eyes a fountain of tears. I would weep day and night for the slain of my people. 70. Which book contains the story of David and Goliath? First Samuel. 1 Samuel 17. David and Goliath. 71. What was Abraham called? Father of many nations. Genesis 17:5. No longer will you be called Abram, your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. 72. What did Solomon build? The first temple in Jerusalem. 1 Kings 6:1. In the 480th year after the Israelites came out of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month of Zeb, the 2nd month, he began to build the temple of the Lord. 73. What were the names of the 2 midwives who feared God and saved Hebrew babies in Egypt? Shiphrah and Puah. Exodus 1:15-16. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Shiphrah and Puah, when you are helping the Hebrew woman during childbirth on the delivery stool, if you see that the baby is a boy, kill him, but if it is a girl, let her live. 74. What was in Ezekiel's vision? Valley of Dry Bones. Ezekiel 37:1. The hand of the Lord was on me, and he brought me out by the Spirit of the Lord and set me in the middle of a valley. It was full of bones. 75. How long did King Zimri rule in Tirzah? "7 days." 1 Kings 16:15. In the 27th year of Asa, king of Judah, Zimri reigned in Tirzah 7 days. The army was encamped near Gibbethon, a Philistine town. 76. What was Barnabas known as? Son of encouragement. Acts 4:36. Joseph, a Levite from Cyprus, whom the apostles called Barnabas, which means son of encouragement. 77. How long did God extend King Hezekiah's life? 15 years. 2 Kings 26. I will add 15 years to your life, and I will deliver you and this city from the hand of the king of Assyria. I will defend this city for my sake and for the sake of my servant David. 78. What did Moses name the banner after defeating the Amalekites? 'The Lord is my banner.' Exodus 17:15. Moses built an altar and called it 'The Lord is my banner.' 79. What was the name of the mountain where Elijah challenged the prophets of Baal? Mount Carmel. 1 Kings 18:19. Now summon the people from all over Israel to meet me on Mount Carmel, and bring the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah who eat at Jezebel's table. 80. What did Zechariah have a vision of? A flying scroll. Zechariah 5:1. I looked again, and there before me was a flying scroll. And that's all the questions for today, so tell us how you did down below and share this with your friends and family, and we'll see you in the next one.